How many of you had this challenge? A lot of hands going up. What do I write about? And I see a lot of hands going up on the screen as well. What do I write about? I'm going to clear all the gestures that were made. And now I'm going to ask you a very simple question. How many of you are table topic? How many of you are Toastmasters? Or rather, a better question, how many of you are not Toastmasters? Just a show of hands, please, if anyone is not a Toastmaster. Just a show of hands on the stage. So Shruti is not a Toastmaster, Lavanya is not a Toastmaster, Anil Kumar is not a Toastmaster. Rest of you, everyone is a Toastmaster. So Shruti, Lavanya and Anil Kumar, this question is not for you. This question is for the other people who are Toastmasters. So I assume that each one of you is familiar with the most difficult and the most challenging part of a Toastmasters meeting. Can anyone type in the chat box what is the most challenging part of a Toastmasters meeting? Can anyone type in? Any Toastmaster? The one part that you actually fear. Excellent. Soumya, Nimit, Sumit. You know what is disappointing? The first three names here are from Turning Point Toastmasters. And there is another name here from Embark Toastmasters that happens to be in my area. And we lay such a stress on table topics that I at least expect my club members to be up and running with table topics. But this is not about that. So how many of you, and you can do this by show of hands, when you encounter table topics, so when the table topic session happens, a speaker is called on stage. Let us have a rather imaginative name for that speaker. Let that imaginative name be Rupinder Singh. So Rupinder Singh is called on stage. Rupinder Singh is given a speech topic. When you listen to that speech topic, how many times has it happened to you that you go, God, I should have got that topic? How many times, and has it ever happened to you, first of all? Have you ever wanted to say, oh, you know what, give that topic to me, I can do this better. Give that topic to me, I can do this better. Has it ever happened? How many of you can relate to that? I see a few hands going up, on the screen itself. How many times? Okay, so Divya is raising her hand. I see quite a few hands go up, which is a very good thing. So my question to you is, how long is a table topic speech? It is about 1 to 2 minutes, right? So question is, what stops you from writing a 5 to 7 minute speech on that topic? You wanted that topic, right? Everyone wanted that topic. You said that you would have said, if I had got this topic, I would have nailed it. There is no way that I would have got this topic wrong. What stops you from writing a speech, a 5 to 7 minute speech or a keynote speech? How many of you even felt like that? How many of you have actually tried it? Has anyone even tried it? Because there is a speech topic right there in front of you. So the question, what do you write about? If you're not getting any ideas, my first suggestion would be table topics. Those are my, every time I run out of speech ideas, I go to table topics. Sometimes I go to meetings just to sit quietly, listen to the table topics, take notes, because I want an idea for my next speech topic. So one of the bigger challenges that every speaker every time faces is how to get the speech topic, how to get an appropriate speech topic. But many times, a lot of people know what they want to talk about. And This is where I want you to reach out to think, what is it that you want to talk about? I don't want you to write it here. Just take a notepad. What is the one speech you always wanted to give? Don't forget, don't think about public speaking. Don't think about getting on a dais and speaking. Don't think about getting on a stage and speaking. It could be the speech that you always wanted to give to your company's leadership team. It could be a speech that you want to give to probably your worst critics. It could be a speech that you want to give to probably the people at your home. It could be a speech around how to do things right. Just to give you an example, I used to work in an organization where the office capacity was 250 people. Somehow they managed to fit in 550 people in that office. The challenge used to come somewhere when the office used to get over. So there would be a crowd outside the lift, and it would take a lot of time and energy to get a lift. We were on the 14th floor, so for people like me, using the stairs was not an option. I would rather wait for an hour until I got my chance. But what I saw was that people did not have lift etiquette, and I saw an opportunity there. So I actually prepared a speech on lift etiquette. So there are issues, there are opinions, there are thoughts, there are experiences that have an indelible mark on you. What is it that you want to write about? In your notepad, in or in your in the or at, in the place where you're taking notes, just write that down. Don't do anything, just write it down. What is it that you want to write about? Just write that down. Done. Now, coming up on your chat window, how many of you thought that thinking of what you wanted to write about was difficult? Show of hands. Anyone? Samir had a challenge. Sakshi had a challenge. Sanjay had a challenge. Well, I wish I could tell you that it gets easier, but it does not. It actually gets more difficult, because here comes the next question. On your chat window, from me to everyone. Why do you want to talk about it? If you have the answer to this question, I guarantee you, you are 60% there. Number one, what do you want to talk about? And number two, why do you want to talk about it? Because in that why do you want to talk about it comes another question. What do you want the people to do once they listen to your speech? And some people are answering, thank you very much. But just write it in your notepad. What do you want the people to do once they listen to your speech? What is it that you're trying to accomplish out of your speech? For example, in my case, I wanted people to use the lift more responsibly. That was the outcome that I wanted. And to some extent, it did happen. Because one challenge that I saw was that people did not care if the lift was going up or going down. As long as they saw space in the lift, they would straight away get in. So if the lift was going up and when it came down, the lift was already occupied, and it would lead to a lot of frustration. And I had a very difficult time convincing them that, look, if you are going to do that, then every person on every floor is going to do that. And that lift, with the lift that you could get in 15 minutes, is going to actually take you more than an hour. to get there. You might as well walk down the stairs from there onwards. So why do you want those people to listen to it? Write that why. Now, can you write in that notepad as to why do you want people to listen to that speech? More specifically, what do you want them to do after they have listened to your speech? And now I will open the floor to you entering that on the chat window. 2 sentences. I want to write a speech about whatever it is. And second, what I want the audience to do after that is. Just put that out on chat window. A couple of examples. Do you want to speak up? Anyone wants to speak up as to what they want to do? Anyone? You can unmute yourself. Sakshi has raised her hand. Yes, Sakshi, what do you want to raise? What do you want to write about?
I want to write about my experiences and my learning. I
Okay.
read a lot of stuff and I would like to share those things with the people.
Why?
Uh, just to, just for my, like, just to share my understanding.
What is it that you hope to gain out of it?
Maybe more insight on the things around us. It can be anything. It can be related to spirituality. It can be related to environment. It can be related to some data and research kind of thing. Anything that I read, anything that what I understand, I want to share it with the people on
Interesting.
a big platform.
Interesting. Now let's just go through some of the responses. Nishtha Rajiv says that I feel there is need to make people aware of the fact through speech. Amit Kumar wants to share learning and experience. Again, Nishtha Rajiv comes back with to seek attention and audience may learn something out of it if they like the content. Because I want them to learn from my experience. Uh, Anil Kumar wants to create a speech around why knowledge sharing. Then what from Avnish is to present product roadmap and future solutions in a forum so that they can invest in the product. To express my thoughts to others so that others may get some learning if there are few. I want people to think and appreciate the message of the speech. Now, let me tell you, every one of you, thank you first of all for submitting your responses. But if I look at Avnish's response, yes, Anant, we all want to change the world. Thank you. If I look at Avnish's response, that seems to be the most specific. He has a particular product and he wants people to invest in the product. Now, if I was to use that analogy, think of your speech as a product or a service that you are providing. And now ask yourself the question, why would the audience, why would your audience want to listen to you? What is the value you are providing? So when I give a generic answer like I have a thought that I want to share with the audience, it is not specific enough. What is it that you want the audience to do after they have heard your speech? That is the most important part of a speech. Do you want the audience to feel inspired? Do you want them to feel informed? Do you want them to be entertained? Or do you want them to contemplate? What is it exactly you want them to do? And then, what is the one thing that they should remember about your speech? So, if you remember the best speeches that have been given, For example, I have a dream, or yes, we can, or closer to home, I see something in you. The central notion is that each of these speeches has a call to action. When Martin Luther King said that I have a dream, he was not asking people to dream, he was not sharing his dream, but in his own inimitable style, Martin Luther King was saying, help me realizing my dream. When Barack Obama went up there and said, yes, we can, he was not asking people to decide on whether they could or not. He was asking for a vote. When Dhananjay Heterachi went on stage and said, I see something in you, there were 1,500 people. And there is no way that Dhananjay Heterachi would have seen exactly what he wanted to see in each of those 1,500 people. What he wanted to do was make people believe in themselves. And that why is very important. It is the most important part in a speech. That is why a lot of your mentors, a lot of people who ask you to write speeches will tell you to actually write them down, to actually write those speeches down. And perhaps for us, for a lot of us, including myself, that is the most difficult part. But there is a method to that madness. Why do we write our speeches? We write our speeches because when we are writing, only then does it become clear that what is it that we want our audience to do. Otherwise, it is just mindless blabbering. People think that they can go on stage, talk about anything, probably throw in a message in there for the public to acknowledge. It does not work that way, which is why you are asked to write your speeches. And that is the third most important thing I can tell you. First of all, what is it that you want to write about? Second is, why do you want to write about it? Basically, what do you want the audience to do after they listen to you? Third, I want you to write it. Now, it might be in a very rudimentary format. So let's say that you decided to write, okay? And anyone can answer this. Assuming that you are writing something about something that you're very passionate about, how long a speech do you think you can give? Ballpark. That's it, Avnish. I'm not giving you a time limit. Tell me how. Seriously, Ruchita, you're from my club. 4 to 5 minutes. Come on. How long can you speak about a topic that you're absolutely passionate about? Come on, Rajiv, you're a veteran. 20 minutes. Now we're getting somewhere. Avnish, I know that you will lose. Okay, now Samir is getting somewhere. He can speak on it 2 hours, for 2 hours. Something that he is passionate about. Don't bother whether the audience will be interested or not. Don't bother whether you don't have a time limit or not. Just assume that you're given something to talk about, to go on stage. 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 hours, 24 hours. You can talk as much as you want. Why am I asking you? Because that is the assumption you're going to make when you start writing your speech. You assume there are no time limits. You assume that your audience will be interested in your speech. You assume that whatever you are writing is relevant for everyone. You assume that there are no barriers, there are no constraints. Why am I saying this? Because I want you to write as much as possible. If it means that you're going to fill 10 pages, go ahead and fill those 10 pages. If you think that this is going to take 20 minutes to speak, write for those 20 minutes. Have a speech ready for those 20 minutes. Why? Because believe me, and you will find it difficult to accept, but believe me, it is easier to take a 20-minute speech and make it a 5-minute one. It is very difficult when you write content for 5 minutes and to expand it to 20 minutes. All right. So write as much as possible. That is your fourth lesson for today. Write as much as possible. Okay. Write without constraints. This is your initial draft. Now, a lot of you must have heard my speech, Why Me? If you haven't, I can share the URL later. But this is not the time to blow my own trumpet or beat my own drum. What I will tell you is that this Why Me speech was originally a 12 to 15 minute speech that was conjured up on the spot, where I made some notes, where I made some points. I took those points on stage. I went there and I delivered, I think, around 12.5 minute speech. And when I saw the response, I got the feeling that, hey, this could be a championship winning speech. And so I brought it down to somewhere around 7 minutes, where I could finish it in 7 minutes. And again, that is a difficult part, because when you write so extensively and when you have to bring it down, you have to pick and choose your stories. And this is where practice comes in. This is where peer feedback comes in. This is where the structure of the speech comes in. You structure your speech so that there is a definite beginning, there is a definite body, and there is a definite conclusion. Obviously, the conclusion is going to contain the lesson or the takeaway or the call to action that people will get out of your speech. In a 5 to 7 minute speech, you can maximum have 3 stories to tell in the body, or 3 experiences, or 3 examples. What are going to be those 3 examples? That is your most difficult part. But if you have written extensively, then picking and choosing the examples becomes that much more easier. Let's say that you wrote only one example or only one story. You prepare your speech, you go on stage, you find you're finishing inside 3 minutes. Now, suddenly, you know that you're going to get disqualified on time, because the speech time is typically 5 to 7 minutes. Now you have to come up with 2 more stories. Trust me when I tell you this, I've been there. And coming up with those 2 more stories is way more difficult than having 18 different stories and picking and choosing a story out of those 18 stories. And guess what? You might have 18 different stories. And let's say that the people who are listening to your speech are corporate employees. You can modify your speech for your corporate employees by picking out the appropriate stories. If you're giving it in a university, your crowd is students. So pick out the stories that you feel will appeal the most to the students. Right? So you've figured out what you want to write about, why you want to write about it, right? What was the third part? Can anyone tell me? The third lesson was?
Write your speech.
You write your speech. And what was it? Do you write it extensively. How do you do?
Write as much as possible.
As much as possible. Do not bother if it is a 15-minute speech or a 20-minute speech. As much as possible. Because the more you write, you will be able to pick the appropriate portions of your speech and still make a 5 to 7 minute speech out of it. Trust me, I've been in this industry, the training industry, for the better part of 2 decades. When people tell me that, you are going to give a 2-hour session, I know that in 2-hour session, I need to prepare at least 35 to 50 slides. I actually prepare 75 to 100 slides. Because I would rather look like an idiot who runs through his slides, comes to the appropriate one and tells a story there or talks about that slide, than in the middle of a presentation, realize, I wish I had that slide here. Does it make sense? If it is making sense, I would like to see some hands up or thumbs up or anything. Does that make sense? Okay, I see a few thumbs up. So write as much as possible. The one fundamental mistake that a lot of people make a lot of time, and I will require some inputs from Anant Katyayani, comma space DTM here, is that people think that they can wing their speeches. Anant, any experience there?
Would you elaborate it a little bit, because this is too much an
People tend
open-ended
to
question.
wing their speeches. That okay, I'll go on stage and I'll figure out how. I'll figure it out as I go along.
To be honest, at a couple of times, guilty as charged. I have done it myself as well, and I have realized with a bitter experience, I most likely embarrass myself in this way. Unless I have a plan, I have no purpose to go there on the stage itself. And as you say, let's say I have 2 minutes of content and I plan to stretch it to 7 minutes on the fly. It may make a courageous table topic, but to answer your first two questions, what am I looking to share and why should I share? They flop. So my purpose is beaten before even I go on stage.
Right. Thank you, Anant, for sharing that. Now, let's say that you've done all the hard work, you've got a speech ready. What is the next step? It is obviously to deliver your speech, right? How would you want to deliver your speech? What is it that you want to do? And everyone is giving me the right answers, rehearse. But honestly speaking, hand on heart, show of hands, how many of you memorize your speeches? Show of hands, or have memorized your speeches, or would memorize your speeches. Let's not go into not 100% Avnish. We will come back to that. I want to see, honestly, hand on heart, memorizing your speeches. Only 3? Okay, I see Amit raising his hand. I see about 5 hands go up. Okay. Either the rest of you are geniuses, or you are lying, or you've never made the mistake of memorizing in your life. Because I'll be the first person to tell you. And why am I saying that memorizing is a mistake? Because we've been brought up in a way in which we think that memorizing or rote memorization is the way to go about it. It's not the case, because on a stage, it is a very, very, very different experience, because you have to cater to your audience. When you memorize, you're on stage, you're delivering a speech, all of a sudden, a 5-year-old kid breaks out of the crowd and pops out a lollipop and starts having that lollipop right there in front of you. you are distracted. And that is the problem with memorization, because your brain till now has programmed itself around that speech to an extent that it cannot afford distractions. The answer is rehearsal. Like Nasser said, like Avnish said. Why rehearsal? Because rehearsal is your body's way of memorizing your speech. Rehearsal is your body's way of memorizing your speech. Memorizing caters only to the mind. When you rehearse your speech, the rest of your body joins in. You will know the exact gesture at what point. And with practice, you will also know the appropriate thing to say at the appropriate time, using the correct vocal variety and using the correct hand gestures, your body language, the smile on your face, the expression on your face, the eye contact you want to maintain, who to make that eye contact with, where not to make the eye contact. If you are memorizing, trust me, this is a lot of information to process. Who do I look at when I start at my speech? Where do I deliver my speech? While your mind is doing all these calculations, it has already memorized your speech. It is also doing all these calculations in the back end, and that is where speeches fail. But if you rehearse, if you practice, then your body tells your mind that, dude, you're not in this alone. We are here for you. We got this. Your hands will say to your mind, we got this. You focus on delivering your speech. We'll focus on sending out the right message. Your eyes will tell you that, your eyes will tell your mind, you focus on the delivery. We'll focus on picking out the right people in the audience. Your facial expressions will say, you focus on the content or adapting the content. We will figure out what is the appropriate expression to give, which is why rehearsal is the most important. Now, when you do rehearsal, another thing comes out. See, the speech you write and the speech you will deliver will be two very different speeches. Quite different. Why? Because when you write, you are writing for people to read. And when you speak, you are writing for people to listen. Those are two very different things. The words that you would normally use when you want people to listen are words that would be very different that you would use when you want people to read. Why is that? Let me give you an example. Let us say that, I'll just take the example that you're working in an office and that you're working in an organization. You are supposed to deliver the news to your boss that you are moving on, that you found a better job. Now, obviously, there are two ways of doing that. One is intimate them through email. The other is to have a person-to-person talk. When you write an email, your content will be something like, dear Rupinder, assuming Rupinder is your boss, you're unfortunate enough to have me as your boss. Dear Rupinder, I have decided to move on and I have accepted a position elsewhere. It was not an easy decision to take, but I believe that the decision that I have taken aligns with the goals, certain goals that I have set for myself. I wish to thank you for all the opportunities you have given me at this organization, and I wish to assure you, Rupinder, that you will have my every possible support to ensure a smooth transition. I valued my time while working here, and I hope that our paths will cross again in the future. Signed, your name. This is the email that you're going to send. But if you were having a face-to-face with Rupinder, you don't come in and say, "Dear Rupinder, I have decided to move on." It will sound very awkward. Do you get why it sounds awkward? It will be more direct. It would be something along the lines of, "Hi Rupinder, I have some news to share. And the news is that I've decided to move on." Right? So the moment you say, "I have some news to share," it will trigger off certain alarms in my head. I know what kind of news you have to share, and well, stuff like that. Does it make sense? Is it making sense? Show of hands, yes, no? There is an icon for yes, by the way, over in your, so a lot of, so some people are saying yes. So the speech, the same thing applies to your speeches. The speech you write for people to read and the speech you write for the people to listen are two very different speeches. And you will realize that when you start delivering your speech, when you start practicing your speech, you will realize that, hey, people would love to listen to this word more, or people would love to listen to this phrase more than they would love to read it. Because why? Because you were writing for an audience to read. And it is a natural tendency. A lot of us do that. That is where you go and revisit your speech, which is the lesson that the best speeches are not written, they are rewritten. 117. That is how many times I rewrote Why Me. 117. And those are just the versions that I recorded. I'm pretty sure the number is even more than that. But I have 117 different versions of Why Me. Some of them have a different opening, some of them have a different closing. But there are 117 different versions of Why Me lying in my inbox, in my computer right now. 117. The best speeches are rewritten, they are not written. The best speeches are also remembered as bullet points. This is my final lesson with you. The best speeches are also written as bullet points. And I'm going to type something here that is, it's a set of numbers. 10. It is a rule for designing presentations. 10, 20, 30. If you're going to give a presentation, your presentation should not be more than 10 slides. It cannot go beyond 20 minutes. So that is 2 minutes to a slide. And the smallest font size on that presentation, the smallest, not the largest, the smallest is 30. Now, I'm not saying that write a font size 30 on your presentation slides. What I'm saying is that if I was to expand every piece of content on your slide to the size 30, that content should still fit on your slide. It should not overflow. What relevance does it have to your speeches? This is where bullet points come in. So when I wrote Why Me, it ran into about 7 slides. And those 7 slides had a lot of content in there. Gradually, as I started practicing my speech, I realized that, okay, this is the block of content that I remember. Now, how about me having just a bullet point for that? This is the block of content that I remember again. Let's have another bullet point for that. Gradually, the amount of content started reducing because I had what I had in my mind and in my body. And there came a day when my speech was 7 slides in length And it was 7 slides because there were 7 parts to my speech. 2 parts to my opening, 3 parts to my body, and 2 parts to my closing. But each of them I could write in bullet points in font size 64. That is the biggest font size that I have gone to. Am I making sense to anyone? If I'm not making sense, please raise your hand. I will explain this concept again, because this is something that you need to understand what I'm trying to do here. Anyone who's not able to understand, just raise your hands. Rupashri does not understand. Thank you, Rupashri, for raising your hand. Thank you, Samir, for raising your hand. Thank you, Roli, for raising your hand. Let me explain once again. My speech is of 700 words. Obviously, if I spread 700 words across seven slides, there is no way that I'm going to have a font size 30. We understand until now? We understand until now? Just answer with yes or no. We understand till now? Roli and Rupashri? Okay.
Yes, Rupinder.
Great. Now, what if I start practicing my speech to a level that, okay, I remember the first few lines, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do in those first few lines. I can replace those first few lines with a single sentence with some keywords. For example, you are going to ask them the question, why me? Instead of saying, how many times have you asked the question, why me? I am sure a lot of you have done that. And then there is this word about trials, travails, and tribulations. So instead of the entire sentence about trials, travails, tribulations, I will simply write a bullet point that says trials, travails, tribulations, because I remember everything that I have to say around trials, travails, and tribulations. When I move to my first story, I would say that the first story is about my younger brother. Do not forget to mention the fact that point 1, point 2, point 3. Right? These are the things that I have to remember. Second story is about my college life. Do not forget to mention mathematics, 36, 24, 36. And the third story is about my college life, about my work life. Do not forget to mention what my country had said. This is purely from the context of why me. Am I making sense now? So instead of having that whole speech structure out there on that slide, I just have the bullet points, the things that I need to remember. Does it make sense now to Roli?
Yes.
And okay. Now, once you do that, then you've got your speech nailed down. So we covered a lot of content today. Can you put it in the chat box? What is the first thing that we are supposed to do? Anyone? We don't have time. What exactly? And if you don't know the what, go to table topics. You will find a lot of what's there. Next one. Why? Why? More specifically, what do you want the audience to do? What action that what is the action that you want to perform once your speech is done? What is it that you want the audience to do? Next step, write extensively, no limits. Why? Because it is easier to compress a bigger speech. It is not easy to expand a smaller speech. If you have 2 stories, you have 2 stories. And believe me, the stage is not the place to remember a third story when you realize that you have run out of time. The stage is an excellent place where you realize that your first 2 stories have taken a lot of time and that you might not end on time. So you want to adapt, you want to take out the third story so that you are able to finish your speech on time. That is where having more content helps. But stage is not a place, trust me on this because I've been there, I've done that, where you go on stage with one story and you think that you're going to wing it. And when you try to wing it, you realize that you're going to run out of stories and you resort to incoherent blabbering on stage. Okay, next step. Once you've written, rehearse. Do not memorize. Because rehearsing is your body's way of telling your mind, dude, you do what you are best at, we'll do what we are best at. Think of your hands, your body, your legs, your eyes, your facial expressions as 4 or 5 different people. You think that your mind rules over these people. That is the biggest mistake you make. Nobody is going to listen to your, nobody likes being given direction. Far better that your mind says, okay, I am going to focus on remembering the speech. You guys focus on knowing what to do. That is where muscle memory comes in. Okay, that is where your mind, the various parts of your body say, we got this, dude. You go do your bit, we'll do our bit. And as it happens that when you work together as a team, together everyone achieves more. Okay, next step. Next step.
10,
Know
20.
that you are able to write your speech in bullet points. You practice your speech that you can write it in bullet points, and for each bullet point you are able to tell, this is where I am going to have this expression, and you don't even have to remember, it comes naturally. You can do it anywhere. When I was practicing Why Me, for example, I remember Mukesh Thakur driving the car, and on my hand I would create a virtual stage that this is where I will start my speech from, this is where I'll move, this is where I go next, this is where I come. I could actually do that on my hands. I actually did that in my bathroom when I was taking a bath. And folks were kind of, okay, why are you asking why me inside the bathroom while you're taking a bath? Okay. But the fact is that if you remember your speech in bullet points, you will know exactly what to say and when to say it. One thing that I forgot is when I would practice my speech, so I had 7 slides. So initially, of course, I went from slide 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 and so on. Then I went from 1, 3, 5, 7, 2, 4, 6, the parts of my speech. Another day I would go 4, 6, 2, 1, 3, 4. And why? Because I wanted to remember, I wanted to nail down each part of the speech. That's it from my side. I will now hand over the stage to, I will now call Anant on stage, my partner in crime, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Folks, can we have a good round of applause for DTM Rupinder? He has done a fantastic job last 1 hour.
Anyone, any questions?
Yes, Rupinder. So I have first question lined up from Anshuman straight away because he had been raising his hand for long. And folks, please
I thought you were on my side.
Yes, just a second, Rupinder. So folks, please write your name in the chat section so that we can come to you in that order for a question each. Anshuman, please ask your question in the briefest possible manner. Go ahead.
Sure, Anand. Thank you, Rupinder, for a brilliant sessions once again. So while rehearsing, on the topic of rehearsing, the hand gestures and the stage movement, I should tie it to my bullet points and the speech also. And how should I correct myself? What is the process of correcting? Should I record myself, see it again, and then correct my hand gestures and my stage movement?
Thank you, Anshuman, for asking me that question and answering it as well. Thank you for turning on your video. While you were doing that, you automatically had your hands going above. So your hands were actually doing the talking already. So that is your natural style, right? All that needs to be done is figure out if there is an inappropriate style. And if there is an inappropriate style, to get that corrected. For example, and I still do this at times, when I say point number 1, I used to go point number 1. And this, when left alone, this became a very obscene gesture. Now I have to be reminded that either keep this held like this, point number 1, and then point number 2, and then point number 3. Either do that and make those 3 fingers clearly visible, or go with point number 1, point number 2, point number 3. Another thing that I've been told is that, so another speaker, they had this habit of point number 1, and they would be, nobody likes to be pointed at. So another speaker had that challenge. So we all have our natural gestures. We all have our natural hand movements. In some of our cases, we still haven't found out what it is yet. That is where Toastmasters comes in. That is where Turning Point Toastmasters comes in on Thursdays. If you remember, that is where I ask people to come to our meetings, see how it is done. Does it answer your question?
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rupinder, for the answering Anshuman's question. Next question is to be asked by Sakshi, and please keep an eye on the chat section as well. If there is a redundant question, we can merge that in as well. Sakshi, go ahead.
Hi, Rupinder.
Hi.
Thank you for that wonderful speech. For that wonderful session. My question is, I am new to Toastmasters and I have flair for speaking. Now the thing is, when I write my speech, I consciously and purposely add few words that I wanted to add. English is not my first language, so it's easy to speak in Hindi. But for delivering a speech in English, like if I want to say to sum up, some other place I'll say to precise, I would like to precise, I would like to stress on, I would like to accentuate. Those kind of words I use. So when I write my speech, I do write those words. And if I do not memorize my speech, because I memorize for that purpose, that I use the correct words, the correct idioms, and then I can place or deliver my speech in correct sequence. If I do not memorize my speech, how am I gonna make an impact?
Did you memorize this question?
No.
Do you have your answer? You made
Kind
an
of.
impact. You made an impact right now when you asked that question. And that is the biggest demonstration. You don't need to memorize your speech. You need to practice it, which means that you need to remember inside your head. Your hands need to remember what they're supposed to do. That needs to become muscle memory. Your mind cannot be doing all of those calculations right there on the stage. That, okay, at this point, your hand should go out like this. Okay, my screen is not supporting me. Your hand should go out like this. Those kind of decisions cannot be taken by your mind on stage. Why? Because your mind is already doing a lot. It is helping you remember what you're going to say. It is going to help you prepare for what you're going to say next. And somewhere, it is also cursing you for why did you get that last part wrong? Okay, your mind is already doing all of these things. You cannot task your mind with, okay, this is where my hand goes up. This is where I ask the audience to clap. Your mind cannot do all of that at that point, which is why I say do not memorize, but practice, rehearse your speech. Does it make sense?
I know, but what about the words and idioms?
The words and the idioms. Once again, when you write, like I said, sometimes you write to read, sometimes you write to speak. Now, if the word or the idiom is looking unnatural to you, or when you are giving a speech, maybe as a rehearsal, you feel that you're not getting the kind of reaction from the audience that you would have wanted, you might want to revisit that. And this especially happens when you're writing humorous speeches. When you write humorous speeches, you have a lot of punches, which you think are going to be funny, are going to make a lot of impact, but then people don't laugh. And that's where you realize that you probably have to, revisit your speech. Okay, I see a lot of raised hands, but I also see.
Rupinder, can you also include Rajiv's question on the same line?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
even after rehearsal, what about forgetting blanking out on the stage?
Rajiv, blanking out happens to the best of us. My sense is that blanking out indicates only one thing, that we need more practice. I honestly, and I'll be candid enough to admit that I don't know the answer as to what do you do about blanking out. But what did help me was attempting those sections of the speech in random order. So I would divide my speech into, so my speech, if my speech is divided into 7 sections, I would do section 1, section 3, section 5, section 7. Then I would go into 2, 3, 4. Because it is easier to remember the section than to remember the whole speech. So if you divide it into sections, so basically divide and conquer. That is what helped me the most in memorizing my speech.
Rupinder, Rupasri has the next question.
Yes, Rupashri.
Okay, so can I just share the screen? I would want to
Yes,
show you
yes,
a para.
please. You want sharing privileges?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Rupinder. The first para. I hope it's visible.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so the first para. How many times have you heard this appeal as a rallying cry to energize tired? Like you can just go through the first para and everyone
Okay.
can.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll frame my question.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
So Rupinder, my question here is, this has been written by one of my mentee.
Mm-hmm.
And truly speaking, I did not understand it at the first go.
Mm-hmm.
It was very confusing for me. And I am a person, I'm surrendering. I'm not at all good in vocabs. I am a person who believe in going with simplicity,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel whatever I can express with simple words will
Mm-hmm.
bring more impact rather than coming up with strong, flowery language words. This is what I feel because I have a weakness, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in this way, my mentees or anybody can think that they would want to draft a speech with high leveled words,
Mm-hmm.
but is it truly important and always necessary to come up with words which you are not actually connecting to?
I will ask Anant to answer that because this is actually a storytelling question. Anant, you're a storyteller.
Rupinder, the short answer is depends on the audience. Never about the speaker, never about the message, never about the content quality or the language part. It's always about the audience. If the audience is at that level where they are accustomed to the flowery language, the metaphors, the kind of all these language jargons, especially if it's a corporate audience or if it's a technical audience, using even those short forms abbreviations, it makes sense only if the audience is likely to understand them. Otherwise, as a speaker, we always have to tone down or scale up based on the audience.
Excellent
Rupinder,
answer. Excellent, Anant. And Rupashri, there you have your answer. If you are delivering if you're delivering a speech on, let's say, Bitcoin to some financial analysts, they understand the lingo. For them, it is not a problem. But if you're delivering to someone like Rupinder Singh, you will have a problem. So you adjust your content according to the occasion. I think Anant, I could not have answered it better. I will very quickly go through the questions that were asked on the chat. Divya is asking why to do rehearsal for even or odd slides. Divya, I answered that question when I answered Rajiv, to properly to properly comprehend your speech, so that you can pick up from any part and you can pick and choose parts, which parts to incorporate, which not to incorporate. Should you run out of time on a stage, what do you want to do now without having to do so basically course correction doing it naturally. That is the reason. I hope that answers your question. Is it not memorize and rehearsal, or just only rehearsal? In the initial phases, when you're starting out speaking, Amit, yes, it could be memorizing, but later on you realize, and in the language, the answer comes to you that rehearsal is probably the best way to go about it. Because in addition to going blank, I use a lot of filler words. Any tips or tricks? The first tip is join the club. Each one of us does it. So you are not alone in this. A lot of people do this. Keep on practicing. Ultimately, you will figure out a way to get around those filler words. Rajiv asks, is content more important than presentation? My answer is content is king. And I know that people have had experiences where somebody came and did a whole lot of antics, the content wasn't there, still went on to win the contest. My only question to you people is that, are you delivering this? Are you in Toastmasters to win contests, or are you to learn to speak to any sort of audience at any given point in time under any given sort of conditions? If the answer is latter, focus on the content, because even today, content is king. Now, I have a question from Nasir, and I think I had a question from Sumit.
And Divya.
Divya still has, I will answer Divya, because Nasir and Sumit I can still answer in the club. They belong to my club. Divya, what is your question?
It is answered, sir. Already
Thank
you
you.
answered it. Thank you.
Samir asked a very important question: how to tackle humor in a speech on a virtual setup when you cannot see audience reaction. I actually set it up in the gallery view. I actually set up my stage in gallery view, and I look at the audience reactions there. So even if I get 20 people, and if they've turned on their videos, I actually also focus on I actually filter out the people who have not turned out on their videos, and I go into gallery view, so I have my audience in front of me.
You can also nudge your TMOD before your speech to appeal to the audience to switch on their videos.
Okay. How do you give a memorable message without seeming like advising? Well, Bhanu, don't advise.
Yeah, so I like to
Tell a
share.
story. Tell a
Yes.
story. Tell a story. Don't advise. All right.
Okay.
Tell a story. Don't advise. I can give you the best example. So one day my manager called me because a teammate had been fired, and I felt very strongly about it. And he told me a story that two monks were walking down the side of a river, and the river was in flood, and they came up upon this woman. And in the monk's tradition, it is forbidden to even touch a woman. Now that woman had to cross the river, so one of the monks placed her on her shoulders, and they crossed the river, set her down, and they walked on. And about an hour later, the younger monk admonished the monk who was carrying the woman, saying that, how could you carry her, because you know that it is forbidden? To which the elder monk replied that, my friend, I left her at the river bank. You are the one who's still carrying it. You are the one who's still carrying her. And then he said to me that, Rupinder, days ago, a person got fired. Think of that person as the woman, and think of yourself as the monk who's still carrying that woman. That is where the message hit home for me. Does it make sense? So do not give advice. If he had told me, Rupinder, you should get out a snap out of it, I would probably never listen. But because he told it to me like a story. Divya is asking, how do we conclude the speech in an effective way? What is it that you want them to remember, Divya, once you step off the stage? If you can answer that question, you will know what is the most effective way. And I will end with a quote: when the why is clear, the how will appear. So figure out that why you're giving that speech, the how, as to how to engage the audience and everything will become clear. Guys, this is folks, this is an initiative by Turning Point Toastmasters. We do this every week. This will be a continuing feature. Next week, you'll be listening to Anant Katyayani talk about storytelling. And I would want you to spread a good word to let the other people know that, look, this is happening. People who might be interested in joining a weekday club, ours is the only weekday club in Gurgaon, to please, suggest us to them. If you are interested in coming to our Turning Point Toastmasters meeting, we meet every Thursday from 7 to 9 p.m. And I would love to have you there as much as possible. Thank you so very much for being a part of this session. I will now hand it over to our presiding officer, our president, Nimit Mittal.
Thank you, Rupinder. It was indeed a great session, and I hope everyone really liked it. I saw that excitement and that engagement in every one of us, because this is a somewhat a pain point for everyone, mostly the Toastmasters and in the community, that how to practice our speech, how to deliver our speech, and what challenges we are facing. And we heard this today from the horse's mouth. I'm sure we all have made a lot of notes, as I could see that there were a lot of questions asked. And yes, eventually, like TTM Rupinder said, we at Toastmasters, make this endeavor to learn together and grow together. And that is why we meet every Thursday at 6:45 p.m. onwards. And we would be sharing a registration. We can be share with you a registration link for that as well. And if you are interested, you can post in your phone numbers or your email IDs as well on the chat, right? And then our membership and the PR team shall approach you for further details about the club. Having said that, we would also keep on meeting every week on a weekend, just like we did today. And next time around, it would be indeed a much uh, more interesting session about storytelling. I heard there was a question around how to how to influence someone, how to give an advice. And yes, indeed, we have to put him a story, and how to put an interesting story, and how to be very how to be engaging. So that's how it is. So we meet next week again, and the session would be from another DTM, Anant Katyayani. And folks, I can see that Anant has now shared the meeting registration link for the Thursday. So you are all invited there. So with that, thank you everyone for joining the session, and let's keep on meeting. So thank you, and have a good day.
Thank you, Rupinder. Bye all.
Thank you, everyone. I will now stop the recording for this meeting.